Well, we're back. This is Steve Sands of Veterans in Politics, Andre Haynes of Veterans in Politics, and we have a special co-host, Gino Caruso, owner of Goodfella's, Bail Bonds, Jail Busters, and Super Bail, if my memory serves me correctly. And we got Andrew Leavitt, attorney at law. But before we go into our guests, I just want to announce the two guests that's going to come on. We're going to have William C. Horne, who's a Nevada State Assemblyman, District 34, and I believe he's still currently the chairman of the Judiciary Committee. And then we're going to have Ed Klapproth, who's a candidate for Nevada School of Board of Education, District number 3, and is also a Veterans in Politics endorsement recipient. Andrew, what's going on, brother?
Hey, just enjoying this hot weather and these interesting conventions.
Have you been watching the DNC convention?
I saw a little bit of it, you know.
Yeah,
I saw a little bit of both. I had to wake myself up.
What is that?
It wasn't all super interesting.
Hey, you know what is a very, very interesting topic is according to what I've learned is that Mitt Romney wants to make abortion illegal. And that seems to be a big fiery topic. I did a post on Facebook, and you'd be amazed on how many posts and comments that are favor of illegal abortion and not in favor of illegal abortion. How you feel about illegal abortion?
You know what? I think it's the I have two opinions. I mean, one per the Bible and the Ten Commandments, it's murder. But on the flip side, it's the woman's body,
right?
You know, I think if I did disagree with it or vote not in favor, I think I would do it from the standpoint that the father should have a say-so or a right in that, because that's his child. The father may say yes, keep the child. The mom may say no.
Right.
So if I was going to vote against it, it'd be, you know, hey, you need to track down the father, and let's go before a judge or a referee and let them have a say-so. Or if we've identified a family out there that wants to adopt or be a foster parent to this child, let's give the child a chance at life.
You know something? I'm pro-life, but I'm not going to force anybody to do what they don't want to do with their body. I believe the abortion issue is a private matter. I believe it should be between that person, their family, their doctor, and their God. And Republicans always say we want limited government, but if Republicans want limited government, why are they telling people what they can or can't do?
Yeah, no,
that just doesn't make any sense, right?
There's a lot of private issues, you know, where both sides or one or the other sticks their nose in it, and you gotta keep it private.
Hey, William, you out there? Yeah. William,
how are you doing?
Hey, what's going on, brother? Haven't seen you in a while. Where you been hiding?
I'm not hiding, just very, very busy.
Hey, that's William C. Horne, Nevada State Assemblyman, District 34. Where you calling out of, William?
I'm currently in Tahoe. I was speaking at an economic development forum for the mining convention.
Yeah, I wanted you live in studio so I could see that bald head of yours. I'm only looking at one bald head so far. Hey, William, could you give us a bio about yourself?
I grew up in Las Vegas. My family moved here 43 years ago, and my father was stationed at Nellis Air Force Base. I've been here basically ever since. I'm a graduate of UNLV as well. Both my undergrad degree and my law degree is from there. I'm a practicing attorney in Las Vegas, and I've been serving in the state legislature and the assembly since I was first elected in 2002, right out of law school. And as you stated before, I'm the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, and I'm also the majority whip in the assembly.
William,
I'm a father of 4 kids, 2 adult daughters, and a 9-year-old son and a 7-year-old daughter, and I'm a new grandfather. My granddaughter will be a year old this November.
Hey, William, what law do you practice?
I do criminal defense and family law primarily.
Okay. I just want to introduce the other two guest hosts. We're going to have Gino Caruso, who is the owner of Goodfellas, Super Bail, and Jail Busters. And we have Andrew Leavitt, who is an attorney in town. You're familiar with Andrew Leavitt, right?
Yes.
I'm going to have both of the gentlemen introduce themselves. Let's start off with Gino Caruso. Can you tell us about yourself, Gino?
Yeah, how's it going? I'm Gino. How's it going, William? I see you're a Western High School warrior. I'm a Basic Wolf graduate, 1987. I was born and raised here in Las Vegas, Nevada, at St. Rose de Lima Hospital and Lake Mead out there in Henderson. And, I went to Westmont College in Santa Barbara, played 10 years of minor league baseball, and then I got into the bail bond business.
Andrew Leavitt?
Yeah, I'm born and raised in Las Vegas also. I went to Las Vegas High, graduated Las Vegas High, went up to Southern Utah State College, went to UNR for a year, and then graduated from the University of Idaho Law School, and I've been practicing law ever since. But I know William, see him all the time. Good
so you're a wildcat.
Right.
Hey, William, are you familiar with anybody sitting here except for me?
Yeah, with Andrew Leavitt, seen him in and out of the courtroom. He's an excellent attorney, and whenever I get a chance, I like to pick his brain about a particular issue, something to help me out. I'm always trying to learn from the good ones.
William, you're up for re-election, correct?
I am.
And how do you feel about your candidacy?
I feel good. As I said, I've been representing this district. Since redistricting, it's changed a little bit. It's shifted more west. The old lines actually had the neighborhood in which I grew up in, had Western High School and Gibson Junior High in it and the like. And I lost some of those neighborhoods, but still maintained most of the district, the original district that I had. And out walking and good responses at the door. Had a primary, which I did very well in. So I think overall, people in District 34 have been happy with my representation.
If when you win re-election, are you going to be head of the Judiciary Committee again?
Well, we will see. You never know how things are going to shake out until after the election. You get a lot of new players. Typically, people move up. I've been the chair of corrections, parole, and probation for a term. Then when I went to judiciary, I was the assistant majority whip. Now I'm the majority whip. So things could change, and I could get another position. We'll have to wait and see.
Okay. Well, we have some bail questions for you, William. Are you versed in that?
Not particularly well versed,
okay.
But shoot, I know there's some issues that have come before the legislature in the past.
Well, I'll let Gino Caruso start with the question, and then go ahead, Gino.
Oh, how's it going, William? We got a couple issues that we're trying to raise as the bail bondsman, and then, I brought Andy here with me because he goes into court and represents me on bail motions and whatnot. And he's actually reconstructed some of the laws just to change a word here and there to kind of help unclog the system and help us out getting these people, through their court dates and these bail bonds either exonerated or paid or whatever the issue might be. Anyway, but before I get into that, I just want to bring up something that's really costing the system a lot of money. I don't know if you saw the email. It's called an administrative OR that they're doing in county right now. That's just really shooting the whole system in the foot. We're all getting the money in the door on a bail bond. We go to post it, and they're already out. There's been no hearing. There's been no. It's been just a fingerprint and a walk through the jail. They're given a tentative court date later on. Sometimes a case isn't even filed. And as bail bondsmen, we've gotten the deal where they're going to come back to court. We got co-signers. We have a bond placed up to make sure that they go to court. And the whole system's getting frustrated because of this administrative OR. Now, I know people have to get OR'd. I know the jail's crowded. But my issue is, why do they hold people 12 to 24 hours after a bail bond is posted and they're complaining about overcrowding? I think they should stop the administrative OR, have a hearing in front of judges to decide who will come back to their court date, who has local ties, who deserves an OR. And, in that 2 or 3 days, the people that don't want to wait, they can post bail. And, you know, it's been something that all the bail bondsmen have been talking about. Now we've all got together, and we formed a pack, and we're going to pretty much try to get all this, these laws straightened out. The other one, William, and I really do thank you for your time, I would like Andy to explain to you. It's more about the back end on the exonerations.
How's it going, William?
Hey, Andy.
Hey, listen, yeah, Gino's right. I mean, the jail is, I mean, there is some overcrowding issues, and it's mostly those administrative ORs he's talking about. Those are people that come in with a DUI, and, you know, and everybody knows with DUIs, when they give a blood test, it usually takes 6 to 8 weeks to get the results back, and when they go to court, of course, the district attorney's office, they can't file a complaint till they get the blood back, and that's why, so the jail just kind of gives an administrative OR. But when they do that, they let people go for free. But when you have a bail bondsman, you have that extra layer of protection where you can have a bail agent go out and pick up people when they miss court date, and you don't have to just wait till they randomly, you know, run a light or get pulled over by a police officer, and then they get picked up on the warrant. So it's good to have somebody out on bail versus an OR, because you do have that, the bail agent's ability to go pick those people up when they don't show up for court. But a couple of issues on the bail statutes. You know, we had proposed some changes in this, and we're going to try and, you know, we'll give you a copy of these, William, so you can take them up to the legislature. But for instance, you know, there's a law that, you know, if you get picked up, if you're out on bail and you have like an A or B felony charge, in other words, say you get arrested for an A or B, and for people that don't know, there's an A, B, C, D, and E felony. A and B, of course, being the worst. But when somebody comes to jail and they get picked up on an A or B felony, for instance, the statute says that they have to notify the bail bondsman before they release him. And what they do is they do notify the bail bondsman, but if they don't notify the bail bondsman, there's no remedy. So, you know, we would propose that they just add a sentence to that statute that if they didn't notify us, then, of course, the bond's exonerated, because we sign up, for instance, say somebody gets a DUI and they get picked up for an attempt murder case. You know, if they're going to run, they're going to take off on the attempt murder, and then we get left holding the bag on the DUI. One of the other issues is when people, and this is an issue that's been ongoing for probably the last 25 years, as long as I've been doing bail business, and that is when somebody gets picked up in another jurisdiction on our warrant. Now, what's happening is the statute says that during the 180, and again, for people that don't know, if you miss your court date, the bail bondsman has 6 months basically to get you and surrender you into custody, and then they get off the bond. If they don't pick you up within 6 months, then the bail bonds company has to pay the entire amount of the bond. So not only does the bail bondsman looking for you, but he's got bail agents out there that are looking for you, and they got bail companies that are looking for you, and you basically got a whole crowd of individuals out there trying to find these people that have skipped on their court obligation. But what happens is if they get picked up in jail, say that a guy gets, in fact, I had one yesterday in court where Thursday in court, where a guy we found the guy, he was in jail in the LA County Jail. We filed the motion to get the bond exonerated, but by the time we got to court and had the matter heard, he was out of jail, and so therefore the DA's office, the forfeiture unit, comes in and says, well, he wasn't, quote, in custody, and he gets released. Now, the problem with that is when people miss court, they're not placing them into what's called NCIC, and that's a national database that allows for any time you get arrested or get picked up in anywhere in the United States, if you're in what's called NCIC, they'll hold you. In other words, the jail of Rhode Island, for instance, will hold an individual and give Nevada 25 to 30 days to come and pick them up. But if they're not in NCIC, then they can get picked up for any charge anywhere in the United States, and then they automatically get released. So what we're proposing, and I think it would probably force the district attorney's office to put everybody into NCIC that misses a court date. In other words, and of course this would just be felony cases, is that if they get picked up during that 180-day period anywhere in the United States, then the bond's automatically exonerated. See, and what happens is if the bond's exonerated, the individual's in jail, and then it would be up to the state to go and pick that person up like they would any other person. And we, of course, would pay for those extradition costs. We'd be willing to pay for the 2 detectives to fly to, for instance, Rhode Island, pick up the individual and bring him back. And it would be a win-win for everybody, because I think What's happening now is when these people aren't put into NCIC, they're picked up out of state on another charge, and then they're released, and they never have to answer to Nevada or Las Vegas or anywhere else, Reno, Sparks, anywhere else in Nevada that has a individual that's out there that escaped justice and missed court.
And we're one of the only states in the country that doesn't put people on NCIC on felonies.
And what and you're going to do? You propose to do this only with felonies and not gross misdemeanors?
Well, we can do it with gross misdemeanors too. I mean, of course, that would benefit. In fact, that's a really good idea. We could do it with gross misdemeanors. You can put it on misdemeanors, and again, back to my Rhode Island example, if a guy gets picked up, for instance, on he's got a warrant out of Vegas for a DUI, it's not going to be cost effective to fly 2 detectives out to Rhode Island, pick this guy up and bring him back, but a gross misdemeanor, sure. But what go ahead.
And Andy, sorry to interrupt. What would trigger the exoneration other than being picked up? Because sometimes that happens. You're picked up in another jurisdiction. They see that you have the warrant here, but you've made the decision that we're not going to come get them, and then they release them.
Well,
if that decision is made here, nope, we're not going. It's not cost efficient to go out and get them to Rhode Island. So should that bond be exonerated?
Well, yes, that's a very good example, and in fact, I was just talking to Jim Miller at the DA's office about that because I told him I was going to be on this show, and the answer is yes. And then there's two reasons for that. Number one is it gives the person that gets picked up, for instance, in Rhode Island again, just as an example, he's got 25 days. He's got to sit in jail. And if Vegas doesn't come pick him up, then they release him after 25 days. So he's going to think twice about walking around with a warrant because every time he gets picked up, he's got to spend 25 days in jail regardless of whether Vegas comes and picks him up or not. But the second thing, and most importantly, is it would give, the way that we propose it would give the bail bondsman that opportunity to say, look, okay, Vegas doesn't want to pay for 2 detectives to go pick him up. It's not worth their time. But then the bondsman can pay for that. In other words, the bondsman can step up and say, look, we'll pay those fees to go pick this individual up. For instance, a Class E felony, which is a low-class felony.
Right.
We'll pay, the 2 detectives to fly to Rhode Island, pick this guy up, and bring him back. So win-win for everybody. But yeah, in answer to the original question, if he goes into custody anytime during the 180-day period, anytime in the United States, the bond should be exonerated, and that's the way the statute used to read. And they just changed one of the words, and I think the DA's office went up there and they got them to change some wording a little bit. So now it has to be, in other words, when we go to court, they are in custody. And they're even interpreting that now to mean that they're temporarily in custody. So, for instance, if somebody's only in jail for 30 days or 15 days or 20 days, they'll give you an extension on the bond. In other words, they'll make it, instead of 180 days, they'll make it 210 days for whatever time they spend in jail. But that's not what the statute says. The statute says if they're in jail and we come to court, the bond should be exonerated. So what we need to do is just, take out a couple of commas and put a period here and there, and it'll change that. And what it'll do is it'll force the state to put everybody into NCIC, and that way, because when they don't, then the bond will automatically be exonerated, which is the way it used to be before they changed the statute.
Okay.
So that was just one of the proposed changes, but and then the other one, of course, was we would of course, I think the bondsman should have an opportunity. In other words, if the state doesn't want to pay for him to go pick him up, and the bond's not going to be exonerated, then let the bondsman make that financial decision. In other words, if we got, for instance, a $10,000 bond, and it's going to cost $1,500 for 2 detectives to fly into New Mexico, for instance, and pick somebody up and bring them back, we'll happily pay that. And it works for everybody. The bondsman saves money, and the state gets the defendant back into custody, and this guy's not out committing more crimes in different states and, getting out. I mean, there's kind of a unspoken, rule that if they're on the other side of the Mississippi River, we're not going to go pick them up unless it's a Category A or, Category B felony.
Right.
where we know we can get some prison time because it's not, we're not going to fly 2 Vegas detectives somewhere to go pick up a guy, bring him back clear across the United States, and then he gets probation or he gets off so it's got to be a pretty serious crime. And with our proposed changes, we'd alleviate all that. In other words, the bail bondsman could pay for it. But we can't, from a practical standpoint, when somebody goes to jail, we can't, for instance, somebody's in Rhode Island and they're in jail, we can't send a bondsman out there to sit, at the front door of the jail, so to speak, and wait till this guy gets released, because we have no idea when he's going to be released, so. But if Nevada's got a hold on him, 2 detectives can walk in there, pick him up and bring him back, and they don't have to wait for him to be released. They go right into the jail, they take custody of him, and they bring him right back to answer for what he did here. So those would be our proposed changes.
What do you think?
I want to see the language. It sounds reasonable. I want to see the language that you're proposing, Andy, juxtaposed to the existing language.
It's basically
that's where the rubber meets the road.
Right.
When we speak of it, it may sound good, but then when I see it in writing, and then I put it, before Legislative Council Bureau, and find out what other issues might arise, it's a work in progress. I've never seen a bill get written one time and pass through exactly as is.
Of course.
In concept, what you're saying that seems to make sense. One thing that I always ask when people ask me about particular proposals is, who's going to be opposed to this?
Well, it's a good point. That's why I was telling Gino that Friday. So I got Jim Miller, and Jim Miller is one of the deputy DAs he's a chief deputy DA. He handles all the forfeitures. And I talked to him about this very issue, and he said, "Yeah, we wouldn't oppose that. In other words, if we don't want to go pick him up and the bail bondsman wants to pay for it, it's a win-win situation because they get the defendant back, which is the main thing, which everybody wants, and they don't have to pay the costs. In other words, we'll pick up the costs, but if it's cost prohibitive to us and the bail bondsman, and of course the bail bondsman pays the forfeiture and everybody's off to the races." But he seemed to think it would be a good idea. He didn't have any opposition to it. Well, you can't have any opposition to it because it's a no-brainer. Everybody wins. We pay for it, we save on the bond, and the defendant gets brought back to answer for the charges that he left for.
Okay. And a final question, trying to look forward to potential problems. Do you not anticipate there arising a problem to where the bail bondsmen start to see a pattern of the district attorney's office consciously making decisions not to go get someone because they know the bail bondsman will absorb that cost themselves, and then that becomes increased financial burden on the bail industry?
Well, and that's a good point, and that's what I was speaking to Gino with coming over here. Is there certain cases, like I said, if you only got a $2,000 bond, you're not going to spend $3,000 to go pick the guy up, but. Sure. Versus what's going on now, now we just get no shot. In other words, the DA's they make a conscious decision, well, this is a Category E or a Category D felony. We're not going to travel to go pick the guy up. At least under these proposed changes, we get the shot at it. In other words, we can say, look, we'll pay for it, go get him. And if we don't, I ask
also, Andy, and because the largest population out of those categories is Category B.
Right.
But yet, not all Category Bs are the same.
Right.
There's a very wide range of Category B offenses, some of which you would say, this is not worth maybe going out and getting, but others you would say, yes, we are. And I think that giant, population may cause problems in the DA's office and the bail bondsman arguing on who is obligated to go get this offender.
Well, and it's a good point, but I think that the main thing, though, is if before we even get to that issue, is they got to put these individuals into NCIC so they don't get released right off the bat. Because
I think that's a good point.
Yeah, in other words, the NCIC is just an administrative function. Somebody sits down at a computer, they enter the guy's name, date of birth, social security number, then he gets picked up anywhere on anything. He's got a hold on him. And then we can go to court, and it's, as you know, they got 25 days to go pick him up, so we got a 25-day window where they can contact the bail bondsman, or they can, and of course, you've got individuals out there that we're not going to need to, call anybody on. They're going to automatically go pick them up because they're bad guys and they need to go to jail or prison and they're wanted. But at least with this system, we would have that ability. The DA's office could call the bondsman or the detective or whatever, and we can make that conscious decision whether to pay the bond or go pick the guy up. But either way, that person would stay in custody wherever they're at for at least 25 days.
Andy, for the listeners, could you explain what NCIC means?
NCIC is a national register. It's a warrant system. In other words, say you come to Vegas and you get pulled over for jaywalking. You're going to have a warrant in Las Vegas. So if you ever get pulled over in Clark County, you're going to have a warrant in Clark County. What NCIC is a national warrant, for a better word, a warrant database where they put people in. So, in other words, if you're in Cedar City, Utah, and you get picked up for anything, it's going to get an NCIC hit, and they're going to know you got a warrant out of Clark County, and they're going to hold you for 25 days until somebody comes pick you up. Now, if you don't come get picked up, then they're going to release you back to the street. But what an NCIC does is it's a nationwide warrant system that no matter what jurisdiction you're in, as soon as they hit your name, it's going to show that you got a warrant here in Clark County.
So, Assemblyman, are you comfortable with this?
Yeah, as explained on the phone, yeah, it sounds reasonable. And like I said, one of the things that we do is we look at it, see how the change works, what other statutes it may affect. You don't want to have, unintended consequences from that. So,
yeah, we've got,
and so some things that we work through, and typically, I would ask, various people, the stakeholders on this issue, various questions like I did on this call, trying to anticipate some problems, ask questions I don't know, and see who's affected by it.
And the only thing I can think of, a couple of things. As far as the NCIC goes, me personally, I simply don't know why they don't just put everybody that's got a felony warrant in this NCIC system. But there's a conscious decision that they only put certain people in there, and I think they do that because there's an extradition cost, and you don't want to go extradite somebody unless you know we're going to be able to put them in prison or it's a serious offense. But if you put everybody in there that has a felony warrant, or even like you said, William, a gross misdemeanor warrant, at least that person, no matter wherever they got picked up, they'd have to at least spend 20, 25 days in jail, and every time they got picked up, they spend another 20, 25 days in jail, and eventually they get tired of going to jail, and they come back here and they take care of whatever their obligation is they ran out on. But when they're not an NCIC, they can go and reoffend in any community they want, and the Clark County warrant will never even come up, and they'll be released to the street. So I personally don't know why every single felony, somebody that has a felony and dismisses court doesn't get put into NCIC.
William, when would you return back from Lake Tahoe?
I'm actually getting ready to get in the elevator now and go leave the hotel. So if I lose you, I'll call you back.
Because it sounds like we probably need to set up another meet when you get back. Would that be okay with you?
Oh, absolutely. I'm always trying to make myself available for anybody who wants to talk about specific issues while I'm still serving this seat. That's kind of my job.
And one of the other issues, remember last legislative session, we tried to piggyback on a bill to score away the Veterans Court language?
Yes.
Are you willing to do that in this legislative session, to change the may to shall, and to change it from just a small group of veterans, in the way the language is written right now is combat related, to change it to all veterans for the new Veterans Court law?
Yeah, I told you before that I don't have any opposition to changing that.
Okay.
To that I don't believe there should be a distinguisher between combat veterans and non-combat, because you and I both know that your category may not be classified as combat, but you are in combat zone. You're in, so we shouldn't make those distinctions. You're a veteran or you're not a veteran.
Because I want to make sure that there's a bill draft to change that language, and so it won't sneak up like it did last time. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, hey, Assemblyman, why should the voters go to the polls and vote for you versus your opponent?
Well, because as I said before, I mean, this is a community in which I grew up in. I know the issues. I've learned more and more in my time spent in the legislature. I've earned a good reputation in the legislative body, in both the Senate and the Assembly and across the aisle. I've worked with my Republican colleagues on important pieces of legislation that we've gotten done, and I think that I would be the better choice with my skill sets and my experience to represent the people in District 34.
And let me tell you, this is Andy Leavitt again. I'm voting for William Horne. If I lived in your district, I'd vote for you. He has done a really good job, and he is an excellent attorney, and I would definitely vote for him. Gino? That goes for the whole Leavitt family, and all of them. There's hundreds of them out there.
He just said the whole Leavitt family.
That's all the Levitts, by the way.
There's about 1 million of them over here in Clark County alone.
Yeah,
Gino.
Well, you know, I got another quick question for you, William.
Sure.
What is your stand on pro-choice? Because that seems to be a big issue. Pro-choice or life.
You're talking about the abortion issue, right?
Yeah, didn't you bring that up early?
I heard you guys speaking about that at the beginning of the show. And my position is kind of where Steve was, except I consider myself pro-choice. But I can't imagine myself interjecting myself or the government into a decision that a woman and her family and physician should be making.
Okay.
And as a male, I'll never know what it's like to be pregnant. But I certainly know what it's like to go through a pregnancy with my wife, my ex-wife, and so that's our decision, and those are the family decisions that we've made. Decisions we make when visiting our, the OBGYN and all that. I don't think government belongs in there.
Okay, and what are your ideas to kind of fix, help fix this whole economy crisis we have with the housing foreclosures and, the big hole that this town has got ourselves into with the economy?
It's not one fix. That's what's important for everybody to understand. There isn't a silver bullet to this. I said from the beginning that even when the economy turns around and, all boats rise with the tide, Nevada is going to be one of the last to do so because we're heavily reliant on the tourist industry, and gaming. And that said, we need to diversify our economy, and we need to address that in areas of education, like higher ed. Where are we putting our money in higher ed? What product are we bringing out of our university system? We can't just simply rely on gaming anymore, and mining. And one of the things, like up here, I'm at this mining convention. Did you know that 1% of the workforce in Nevada is mining, but mining accounts for 5% of the GDP? And mining currently is basically our only industry really making any money. So if the bottom were to drop out of mineral prices today, Nevada would be SOL because we don't have a diversified economy to take up the burden, to share the burden amongst each other. And we need to fix that. We need to look at other industries and coming here. If IBM comes here, they recently did, and decided not to set up shop in Nevada, we need to find out why. And is this something that we can fix? So when the next industry comes, a similar industry, and says, we're looking at Nevada, we will have that fixed, and we say, this is the place where you need to be. And so those are just a couple examples on what we need to do to strengthen Nevada's economy.
Okay. Andre, you have anything for the Assemblyman?
With in regards to foreclosures, I know that a lot of banks have gotten judgments against people, default judgments, and they weren't properly served. and things of that nature. How do you propose we eliminate that or reduce that in the future?
Hold on, you were breaking up. I was someone's interrupted. Could you repeat that one more time, please? I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, what are you doing? You beating somebody up?
I told you I was checking out of my hotel room.
Go ahead, Andre.
In regards to foreclosures and the banks when they receive judgments against people, several times they've received default judgments and the homeowners were not properly served, if served at all. How do you propose we eliminate that or reduce that?
Well, we have these programs here that's gone through the Supreme Court on handling the foreclosure issue, people going through the modification issues, how the service and the production of documents, etc. One of the problems that has occurred, and this came out of AB 284, I believe it was, that kind of slowed the process of foreclosures. I think it was, and my name's on that bill. I think it was good intentions, but we ended up with some unforeseen consequences to that. I think the foreclosure process is actually slowed too much, and the result of that is we've got our home values, particularly in Southern Nevada, are going up, but that's an artificial value. Once these foreclosures start going through the normal process again, whatever, I think you're going to see those prices come down. I don't know any other remedy that we don't currently have to add to the process. I think that we had a very bad process to begin with, and I think in order to fix it, I think that we swung the pendulum back too far the other way. And we got to find a middle ground to where, some of these foreclosures are legitimate foreclosures. The banks need to be able to process those in an efficient and timely manner. But also the people need to have appropriate procedure and remedy to go for when those foreclosures are not valid. And I think we're going to tweak on that some more this next session.
Okay, Assemblyman, stay on the line for a second. Gino, could you give us your thank you for coming on the show. Could you give us your point of contact, please?
Yeah, we're down at 513 South Main Street, right next door to that brand new City Hall building. You can't miss us. We're on the corner of Main Street and Bonnieville. Goodfellas Bail Bonds. Our number's 877 toll free 384-5245 384 jail. Website's goodfellasbailbonds.com, and YouTube channel is YouTube/Goodfellas Bail Bonds.
Andy, thank you for coming on. Same as well.
Oh yeah, thank you. We're downtown, right downtown, 633 South 7th Street, and our phone number is 382-2800. And William, it's always nice, and we'll be in touch with these changes. They're very simple, and I think it'll tighten up the bail law, and I think it'll be good for everybody.
And thank you, William. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person sometime. This is Gino Caruso. Hope you have a safe trip.
William,
thanks a lot, Gino.
William, could you give us your point of contact as well?
Yeah, I can be reached at 702-457-6963, or you can email me. You can go to my website, williamhorne.com, and there's a link there where you can send an email to me, and I'll get that as well.
William, thank you for coming on the show. That's William C. Horne, Nevada State Assemblyman for District 34. William is a personal friend of mine. I've known him for many years, and if I was in William Horne's district, I would vote for him again to be the retaining Assemblyman for District 34. So thanks again, William, and keep up the good work.
Hey, thanks a lot, Steve.
This is Steve Sampson, Andre Haynes with Veterans in Politics. Don't go away, folks. We're going to have Ed Klapproth, candidate for Board of Education, District Number 3. Hello, my name is Steve Sampson. I'm the president of Veterans in Politics International. This country and state are in trouble with budget cuts, unemployment, foreclosures, teacher shortage, dropout rates, terrorism, and a loss of military service members. The outcome of this election will profoundly affect families, both military and non-military. Military men and women are dying for other countries to have the right to vote. As a former member of the United States Marine Corps and the Army, I know how important it is to keep the voters informed. Log on to the website veteransinpolitics.com. All Americans of voting age need to not only vote, but research your choices. The Veterans in Politics organization has taken a proactive approach to supporting candidates who will have the courage to protect all of our freedoms and our Constitution. Visit our website at veteransinpolitics.com. Don't just talk about who you support. Research your choices and vote.
Americans have been fooled by politicians about illegal immigration. They make you think that if you bring up this topic, you are a racist. Did you know that America is the only country on this planet that does not enforce its federal immigration laws? For the fear of being called a racist. I am for legal immigration. I was born on the island of Jamaica, became an American citizen, served 12 years in the U.S. military, served in Desert Storm, and received a Presidential Unit Citation, National Defense Medal, and Marine Corps Commendation. Our immigration laws serve a purpose. I understand that this country was founded on immigration, but there is a wrong way and a right way. I'm here to tell you that illegal immigration is breaking our federal laws. Why don't you call me a racist? This is Steve Sanson. While growing up, I've always asked my family, who is my father? I was told the name of a man. When I became older, I looked for this man and found him. He thought that I was his son as well, but after a DNA test, it was discovered that my family was lying to me all my life. I pressured my family to give me the real identity of my father. I then became suspicious and took my grandfather's DNA. After I buried my grandfather, 2 days later I discovered that my grandfather was in fact my biological father. I questioned myself and asked, what is my purpose on this earth? I should have never been conceived. But when I look at my 4 children, I knew that everything happens for a reason. This is Steve Sanson. Find your identity.
Hey, listen up. If you're a military veteran, if you're related to a veteran, or if you know a veteran, you'll enjoy the Veterans Reporter radio show every Thursday from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. with me. I'm your host, Chuck N. Baker. Every week, we will explore veterans issues and we'll have guests who will talk about topics of interest to and about the veterans community. And if you don't listen, you'll have to give me 20 push-ups.
This public service announcement is brought to you by Veterans in Politics International. The Veterans in Politics mission is to teach, educate, organize, and awaken our veterans and their families to select, support, and vote intelligently for a better world, and to protect ourselves from our own governments and a culture of corruption, and to be the political voice for those in other groups that do not have one.
There are too many homeless veterans, and more help is needed from the VA. Every veteran service organization post should adopt a local homeless veteran.
The funding of VA medical centers is inadequate, and building a VA hospital in southern Nevada is moving at a slow pace. The budget has been flatlined for too many years. The VA is too quick to deny claims and too slow to help veterans gather records in support of claims.
Local politicians ignore veterans and their issues. They perceive a lack of organization among their local veterans and that it won't hurt them at election time. Veterans too often vote party.
We are back. This is Steve Sanson, Andre Haynes of Veterans of Politics. We have live in studio Ed Klapproth, candidate for Nevada Board of Education District Number 3, and the recipient for the Veterans in Politics endorsement. Ed, how you doing today, sir?
Pretty good. Glad to be here.
Ed, could you give us a bio about yourself?
Well, I've been in education for several decades. I've been a small business owner. I was with the police force back east. And I've taught at college level. I've taught elementary school, high school, both in the United States and abroad. Yep.
Wow, I didn't know he was a cop.
That explains the endorsements, yeah.
Go ahead, Ed.
So, I teach English as a second language. I also teach political science. And right now I'm teaching at the CSN. Before that, it was Hawaii Pacific University and Waseda University in Japan, and it's too many schools to mention.
So, Ed, why board of Ed? Why you decided to run for that instead of regent or trustee?
Well, as regent, I thought in this case it would be a conflict of interest.
Why is that?
As a regent, I would be influencing my own job.
Okay.
And I said, you can't do that. You can't be, involved there where you'd make decisions about your own position and salary. Just wouldn't be right. And therefore, I decided, when I saw the quality of my students come in and how weak they were, people who should have never graduated high school. They were been pushed through under social promotion. People barely literate, and they go to college, and we have to put them in remedial classes. And I thought, this has got to stop. We have to start improving our K through 12 system.
So what are you going to do to change things?
Well, for one thing, I like the idea of we need to have school choice. Really, really necessary. We have to have more competition. We have to have more charter schools, empowerment schools. We have to start giving control to the local community. And there are times when certain schools will have rooms filled with computers, another school doesn't have any. Why? These decisions are being made at a central location rather than having the principals and the teachers in that school say, this is what we need, let's go get it. We need to have the parents involved in the school process more. One case of a couple came to me, and I really couldn't help them. They live across from Palo Verde High School. Their son's about to go to high school, and he's kind of like the way I was when I was young and that age, kind of small, geeky, with the glasses. And they wanted to send him. It's right across the street. And they said, no, you have to go to Durango, like 4 miles away, which is a little bit rougher school. And they said, so they asked for a district exemption. I said, nope, you got to send them there. Well, that makes no sense. It's across the street. Why can't you choose where your child goes? And people say, well, then none of the kids will go to the schools that are failing. Well, then those schools that are failing, we have to really look at why they're failing. We have to revamp them. And we really need this. We need local control. One of the big differences, we need a bottom-up system. I don't believe in a top-down system for education. I believe parents, teachers, the local principal, they know what they need best. Not some bureaucrats sitting in Carson City or in Washington, D.C.
You talk about parental involvement. How are you planning to have parents engaged in their children's education?
Well, one of the things that I found a lot of parents, people say, well, the parents aren't interested. I found a lot were, but they were turned off by the system itself. They were ignored. They weren't, when they tried to have input, they were just brushed off. We need to allow them to actually participate. PTA, when I was young, was really an active parents organization. We need to tell the parents, look, you will have input. You are going to come to these meetings. You are going to talk. You are going to have input in the curriculum, in the textbooks. We need to have them feel like, yes, they do count. And also, I've seen in other schools and other places really good programs. You want to get parents involved, and not just parents, but grandparents. You want to get the whole family involved in the educational system. Where my daughter went to school, we had a system where parents, grandparents were invited not only to come to class anytime, but actually be trained by a teacher to be their assistant. You want to see a difference in behavior in kids when grandpa's sitting on the lunch bench next to him? Whole different attitude among the children.
Ed, what does the Board of Education do? What is their responsibility? What's their job function? What's their platform? And how does that differ from Board of Regents and School Board Trustee?
The Board of Regents, of course, are in charge of the university system, setting up the policies, the programs, whereas we have the state board, the local trustees are mainly in the money end. They're supposed to be your local watchdogs a lot of times on where the money goes, the budgeting, which is, there's some problems with that right now, I understand. Whereas the state school board is more for general policy. In other words, like percentage, this is how many charter schools you can have. We're looking at implementing this test across the state. These are sort of textbooks we should be involved with. And of course, they work closely with the legislature. If you want to get changes done, you need to have both parties working together. And I have friends in both parties and no parties, you might say, nonpartisan people, independents. We really have to get everybody involved to work together on this because, our state is ranked almost dead last in education. And yet, the amount of money we spend is actually quite high for it. the more money we throw at it, it isn't getting better, it gets worse. And the interesting thing is how much in the classroom is spent compared to how much is spent at the top level. I mean, when you look at all the payments, it's $17,800 per student, but only $6,800 is spent in the classroom. A lot of money is disappearing along the way, money that could be better used in the classroom. So it's not money. Money's not the answer. Now they want to raise taxes to repair schools. Average age of a school in this state is 22 years. Where I went to school, the average age of the school was over 60 years, and the schools were still fine. So what happened there? Did they hire incompetent contractors and bad building inspectors? I mean, what's the case here? These things shouldn't be falling apart that quickly. So you have to wonder about the whole system. You know, we have to get rid of this system where, you know, we reward failure. I mean, social promotion, as I said, has to go. If you have to stay back a year, you stay back a year. I mean, otherwise you have children graduating who are just not qualified.
And what do you think about our special needs programs? I'm a parent of a special needs child, autism, and I found that Clark County School District, we offer very little support. What would you do?
That's one of the areas where we need to increase, is for the special needs children, or special ed. I mean, too often that's overlooked and it's put into other programs that they introduce that are experimentation that we don't need. I mean, I find in schools throughout the country, like the idea, so all the students have to have computers. Well, we want to start giving kids calculators in first grade. Well, how about having those kids not spending that money on the calculators? How about using that for your special needs students? And having those kids start to use a pencil and a piece of paper and the computer between their ears, like I did. I mean, I've been in other countries, and they don't get calculators and computers till much older. Now, of course, we need to have technology, but let's get the basics first. I mean, you know, in some states like Indiana, they're not even teaching them to write anymore. They're giving them a keyboard. I mean, they're so technology dependent, it's pathetic. They can't do simple arithmetic in their heads anymore. And I'd say we have to get back to teaching them the basics like we did in the old days.
Yeah, like counting your fingers. Yeah. I ran out of fingers. So why are you the better choice, Ed?
Well, my opponent, you know, I won't hold her youth against her. But she has a top-down philosophy. You know, let's correct things from the top. I believe it, again, bottom up. I believe that we don't need more money. What we need is a better allocation of the resources we have. And also the fact that I was told by the school district itself that a lot of the money that is collected for the property taxes that's supposed to be for the schools doesn't end up there. It disappears into the general fund.
Right.
Well, if you're a taxpayer and it says that so much of this is going to schools, then it should go to the schools. And there are a lot of ways we can reduce cost. One of the things that I want to do, I've seen in other countries, is we need to have a really good vocational and technical high schools again. There are companies overseas who will come in, set up over in their countries, like Sony. They set up a high school. They have the building, they bring in their teachers, the technology, and they teach children in 11th and 12th grade. When they come out, they have a job waiting for them that pays 60 or 70 grand a year. This is a good way to get companies in this state, that we can really diversify our economy. You know, we get away from just being a tourist gambling place. I mean, and then we have people who have jobs that pay well.
What about the ROTC program? I've seen that been phasing out in a lot of the schools.
Well, in my literature, I talk about that this is one thing we need to have. All branches of the military have ROTC in all the high schools. I'm a very big proponent. I find that teaches leadership. It makes students stronger. Mm-hmm. It gives them a possible career to go into the military, which I think military service is an excellent path. And just the attitude it fosters among the students, they learn self-discipline, self-responsibility. We need to have ROTC in every high school.
Well, Ed, I want to thank you for coming on the show. I'm sorry it was a little briefer than what we expected. We had a full house in the first half. But how could the listeners get a hold of you?
Okay, they could go to my website it's ed1776.org. That's ed1776.org.
Thanks again, Ed. That's Ed.
Thank you.
That's Ed Klapproth, candidate for Board of Education, District Number 3. And again, folks, he's a Veterans in Politics endorsement recipient, so we encourage all voters to go to the voting booth if you're in his district to vote for Ed Klapproth for the next Board of Education for District 3. This is Steve Sanson, Andre Haynes with Veterans in Politics. Until next week.
From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee.
Views and opinions expressed on this program were those of the hosts and guests and did not necessarily reflect those of Vegas All Net Radio, its affiliates, or its parent company.